Hi, good morning, everybody, or good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Raul Martinez. Welcome to the Blackletter Brunch. Today's presenter is Argentinian calligrapher, book artist, and teacher Marina Soria. Marina's presentation today is entitled From Textile to Text, What If? Marina will explore her process for creating her art. And at the end of her presentation, she will share her students' work. Um, so please go ahead, Marina. Thank you so much
Okay.
for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Raul, for inviting me, and I'm very honored to be here. And well, I will tell my story. So let's start. I'm gonna apologize because I will be reading part of the text, but the thing is, if I don't read it, my brain goes everywhere, and I could be speaking of each of the images like half an hour. So just to fit the time frame of this talk, I'm gonna read it. So apologize for that. So let's share. So can you see the image?
Yeah, that looks good. I can see the first page of your presentation, Mensajes del
Okay,
Pasado, but I do not see the toolbar at the top, so that's perfect.
okay. I'm gonna take it away as well because it fits in the middle of my screen. Okay, Mensajes del Pasado, it's messages from the past. This painting was done around 2008 or 9. So you'll see how the story develops. What would happen if the Spanish had not conquered America? Imagine a world where Mayan codices were never burned, where Inca quipus evolved into a fully recognized writing system. This quipu, in particular from the Museo Chileno de Arte Precolombino, or Pre-Columbian Museum of Art in Chile, has 586 strings with 13 levels of information and stores 5,024 data.
Mm.
Imagine a world where Andean textiles were understood as text telling stories, as intricate as an illuminated medieval manuscript. An explanation lies under each of these motifs. You can see it, sorry, here. You can see one of these motifs in this detail. This is the Andean cross, known as the chacana. And remember this shape because I'll show you where it comes from later. The remnants of pre-Hispanic civilizations reveal that language have never been confined to the written word alone. Just as cave paintings convey the beliefs and experiences of early humans, and the Egyptian hieroglyphics encode an entire worldview, textiles in the Andes were more than decoration. They were a communication system. Argentine historian Ruth Corcuera beautifully expresses this when she writes, textile art will be the means to tell us, through color and design, that the world can be read through symbols, as in a written text. In the great American culture, these symbols were a kind of lingua franca, general knowledge, and a major art with many roles among them to express more than words can tell.
Mm.
A new approach to writing in the Andes. The history of writing is often told through alphabets and materials like papyrus, parchment, and paper. But what if the code wasn't alphabetic, but textile-based? Can we consider textiles as precursors to writing in the Andes? This question has been in my mind for years, even since I decided to introduce a textile in one of my books, Textile Text from 2010, where a calligraphic study of the empty space blends with the motifs and colors of an Andean textile. That was the beginning of my curiosity about textiles. Let me share with you this book. I'm sorry, it takes some time to charge. It's supposed to be working.
Wow. Mm. Mm.
Okay,
Nice.
so that was the book.
Okay.
So
Now, excuse me, Marina, was there supposed to be sound with that, or?
we are supposed to see the next slide of my presentation. You're not seeing it?
Oh, yes, I'm seeing the next slide, but I was just wondering if the video was supposed to have sound, or
Yes, it had.
oh, I didn't, no, we didn't hear any sound. I didn't hear any sound.
Ah, you didn't hear any sound. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were. I could hear it.
Oh,
Okay,
because I
it's
noticed
a
you had the
pity.
sound on, but I didn't hear anything.
I liked it in
Okay,
silence. It was really nice. I could just look
o-
at that and not have to hear something else.
Yeah,
okay, but
just
if
looking
you're
at it.
interested, I can send you the link because it's in YouTube, so you can see it again and say it with a story, because I was telling the stories through
That would be
the
fabulous.
video. Okay, great, thank you. So let's
Okay.
keep on going then with the with the lecture. So in 2016, I created the course Weaving Words, or Tejiendo Palabras in Spanish, which produces experiments to merge both disciplines, calligraphy and the textile arts. In 2023, I attended a workshop by Ewan Clayton, What Have I Learned from Burgard, where he explained how scripts evolve over time, moving from rigid forms to more fluid and cursive styles. Ewan said, I wonder how Mayan glyphs might have developed into a cursive script. This question made me consider not the Mayan perspective Ewan was referring to, but rather the Andean perspective with the Chavin culture from around 1,000 years before Christ, on whose myths and beliefs the Inca Empire was founded. So these were some of the sketches and works we did with Ewan in his workshop. For years, I have studied Andean textiles, captivated by their technical sophistication and symbolic depth. These textiles are not just artifacts of culture identity. They are knowledge themselves. They are a knowledge system. A small cap or a woven mantle can encapsulate an entire world view. So now, remember the Andean cross I mentioned before? It depicts the floor plan of their religious building and analogously has the same religious meaning as any other present religion symbol. The one wearing the cap was dressed with the idea of the world. In the Andes, textiles were not mere ornaments. They established hierarchies, narrated stories, and served as secret offerings. They were considered living beings. This belief was so ingrained that scissors did not exist in pre-Columbian America. Cutting a textile was seen as a mutilation. Fabric was not just an object, it was an entity. The Incas valued textile more than gold and silver. A finely woven piece was a tribute fit for an emperor. The geometric patterns of this tocapu, this is the name of this kind of poncho, for example, formed a communication system that remains undeciphered, a woven logographic script of mathematical precision. Have you seen the previous image? Sorry, the previous image. The emperor is wearing the tocapu. Textile techniques in the Andes progressed from embroidery to tapestry, weaving, and made a shift to abstraction. Wari weaving is known for its bold graphic design, with abstract figures of vertical ribbon-like forms of greater complexity. Andean textiles are the products of a community in which communication, art, form, and function were still effectively integrated. And if you can see, this is an image borrowed from a workshop I did from the Pre-Columbian Museum of Art in Chile. You can see the details of the textile here, and this is a diagram of what you see. And this is a character that you will see over and over again in monuments and in all sorts of architecture. Parallel between calligraphy and weaving. In my attempt to blend both disciplines, I found out that calligraphy could be a metaphor for weaving. Strokes or letters like stitches, and text patterns like if it were a textile. So I developed a series of artworks combining both of them. This artwork is called textile printing and plays the mentioned metaphor. To strengthen the concept, I wrapped the frame with thread as if it were a loom. But this is a very old piece of mine. It's around 2010. In the Spanish, if the Spanish have never conquered America, would these codes have evolved into a fully recognized script? Could we today read Andean textiles as fluently as we read medieval manuscripts? While we may never know the answer, the key lies at the intersection of art, communication, and memory. As in calligraphy, every stroke or every thread is a link in the transmission of knowledge. In Chavin cosmology, art was not an individual expression, but a collective language encoded in signs. Their imagery reflects a world in constant transformation, where the boundaries between human and divine were blurred. Under the influence of hallucinogenic plants, artists reach altered states of consciousness and shaped their design, intricated, interwoven patterns that embodied what we now call horror vacui, or fear of the empty space. Within this complexity, we find feline figures with eccentric eyes and sharp fangs, symbols of power and transformation. But beyond the image itself, there lies a message we have yet to learn how to read. One of these textiles that sparkled my curiosity comes from the Chavin culture, 900 till 200 before Christ. It is a cotton piece measuring 116 by 70 centimeters, painted with clay pigments using rudimentary tools such as fish bones and twigs. This textile, possibly displayed in ceremonial temples, served as portable carriers of cultural and spiritual knowledge. Before paper became a medium for writing, it was fabric. Across different cultures, texts have been wrapped, bound, embroidered, or decorated with textiles. In the Andean tradition, fabric did not just carry information, it was information. Just as a weaver interlaces thread with precision, a calligrapher crafts letters with mastery. Both disciplines require patience, manual dexterity, and a deep aesthetic sensibility. They are a perfect balance between creation and mastery, which takes years of patience and hard work to acquire. It's no coincidence that the words text and textile share the same root, Latin root, texere, meaning to weave. The language we use to describe writing is filled with textile metaphors. We spin tales, weave narratives, unravel meanings, interlace your thoughts, stitch words together, knit a story, embroider your ideas, sew the seams of meaning, loom of language, patchwork of memory. It is the artist's prerogative to claim part of a reality and transform it. Pattern is very much part of the language of textiles, and motifs are the words and letters of that language. My research led me to develop an alphabet inspired in my knowledge of traditional calligraphy, drawing or borrowing visual elements from Chavin motifs. In this system, I combine uncials and Gothic letterform structures with gestures from copperplate scripts or humanistic, reinterpreting textile patterns as living letters. Since I'm the creator, I have the freedom to choose, having at my disposal the repertoire of forms and symbols in the whole history of writing. In the same way we work when doing experimental calligraphy, we first design the character. Maybe more than one shape for each letter. Then we write a word, a line, and the text. Finally, we could add some color. When this step is over, maybe we could try using different tools. Like in this case, I worked with a shorter text to try Pitbull B or a pointed D, then adding some other techniques, once again borrowed from the textile art, like embroidery. The text reads, "The space of a crack is enough for life to be reborn." Sábato. If we like what is happening, then we may venture into a whole project. In this case, I wrote a poem comparing people to rivers. For this piece, I used a leftover from a workshop on watercolor technique. So what you see as the background is a leftover. The text was written with whitewash on top. Where there were stains I did not like, I hid them under the shape of a coiled fish. I turned this piece into a book. And so for the covers of this book, I depicted the circular shapes of the letters from the last page and did laser cuttings to introduce the watercolor. Using this same alphabet, but inspired by the colors of another antique textile from the Andes, I worked with Corcuera's text and added some paper embroidery. For this technique, you need to previously punch the holes in the paper to embroider it. Woman's Gaze was inspired by an unfinished sash. Since my aim was to finish the piece, I deliberately redesigned the alphabet to fit the shapes in the sash motif. Many of these pieces have been displayed at the Bauhaus Museum last year, and now they are displayed at the Mana Art Gallery exhibition in Bruges from April 26th till June 29th. Moving forward with this theme, I depict other textiles. from other cultures. This is Moche culture. This is just a scrap. You may see that the shapes of this man lifting his arms in an expression of prayer are captured in the drawing of the letters. The I could be easily recognized as the O character, and his arms as N, S, or Z. If you apply design principles or operations such as rotation or mirroring the image. This is a mantle from the Chankay culture. In the border, I immediately identify letters such as B, P, and A. With these three letters and following the calligraphy rules for Roman caps, I could design the missing letters of the alphabet. My last example is inspired by an unku. Unku is a ceremonial poncho from the Mapuche culture. The alphabet in this case is inspired by the cattle brands or marks of the province of Buenos Aires, but the colors are definitely tied to those of the unku. I'm not sure if this has any sense for you, but definitely the words from Ruth Corcuera, and I will repeat them. Textile art will be the means to tell us through color and design that the world can be read through symbols as in a written text, as well as Ewan's question about what would happen if the Mayan culture had the time needed to turn their glyphs into cursive writing, have been an enormous inspiration and will keep me going and searching for many years to come. So thank you so very much for your attention. And if you want, I could share with you some pieces of my students, because you may think that this is the result of an imaginative brain. But although that could be true, I found out through my teachings that this can be done by other calligraphers, artists, and students. The starting point being a textile will expel a whole world of possibilities. So if you want, I can show you these amazing works from my students turning textile into text. I'm gonna stop sharing this. Maybe you have any questions about what I have talked about?
It's just beautiful, fascinating. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks to you. Okay, now I'm gonna share, sorry, I'm gonna share, I have to put textile. And share. Can you see from textile to text, alphabets inspired? Okay.
Yes.
I can see that from textile to text students till 2024.
Yeah, exactly. So I will have to say that most of these works were done in 2 days. If you see a name that is repeating, so that means that that lady, because my students are ladies mainly, 90%, 99%, that is done on an online workshop, and that was COVID's time, where we have more time to work on our project. But just have a look. Do you see the full screen?
Yes, I see the screen from textile to text, a two-way road experience, and it's in full screen. Yeah.
Okay. So Heirloom textiles are loaded with powerful meanings. Other hands have intervened them, dreamed about them, decided their form and function. They come to us through familiar routes, impossible paths, coincidences. We will take them with love and respect, and thinking about their first life, we will give them a second chance. We will give them a voice and an alphabet, transforming them into language, a new written language to express our feelings through text. A second life threaded with ours, revealing secrets and mysteries, talking about ourselves. This is a text made together with a friend, Marian Civic. I won't talk about every single example I'll be showing, but I'll stop at some very specific ones, which I think it's worth talking about. But these are people from all over the world and from different levels, beginners, intermediates, and advanced students. In some, you can just see the beginning of something that if worked through a process, it could really achieve very successful solutions. And the goal was to depict a textile that was meaningful to you, that in some way there is a story behind the textile, because it makes it much more personal. And all the work and all the time consuming calligraphy takes, it's worth doing it for something specific and not just working letters, but working for a meaning. This lady from Australia, she depicts a shawl or a silk handkerchief which had lots of designs, and so this is one of them. And in this case, she's weaving the letters as the weaving is depicted on the fabric. And here, she's creating an alphabet with one of the designs or motifs of this shawl. And here, she depicts a rug. And she's painting, drawing, creating an alphabet, and weaving paper all in one. This is my dear friend Anne van Gentenrich. And maybe Anne will be very shy to tell the story, but her piece of inspiration is a tablecloth she inherited from her parents. Or maybe you want to tell the story, Anne?
Hello, Marina. Yes. Oh, yes, it's a tablecloth I have for many years from my parents, and they received it from an old lady they took care of for many years. And when I took that tablecloth, I saw in the center there was that circle, and it was almost referring to my Calliandra script. I hadn't noticed that earlier, but it was only when I took Marina's class that I saw that circle in the middle of that tablecloth, and I compared it to my Calliandra script. And yes, that was very fascinating to combine that history and that letter and that, yeah. And this is some layers of that tablecloth that I combined. And then that black object that was, I don't know how to say, it was in my house. It's something to put in the fruit, I don't know how to say.
Like a bowl, like a bowl.
Yeah, like a bowl. And then I thought, oh, that's almost the same image as that circle in that tablecloth. And so I combined it together, and it was like it was all coming together in one story. And so are the letter forms that I was inspired by that tablecloth. I never thought that I would use that tablecloth to make letter forms, but thanks to Marina, it happened. And
No. So there
yes,
is
yes,
Caliandra, and there's the
yes,
center of the
yeah.
of the tablecloth.
And
And it
they are
was
so,
magic. It was
yes,
magic.
they are
So
almost the same, but they were done in different periods without knowing each other. And yeah,
yeah, so
so
I think that is the powerful thing of textiles. We are wrapped from the very first moment when we come to this world, we are wrapped on fabric, and we leave the world wrapped on fabric as well. So fabric has been with us all the time we walk this planet, and we are not aware, but we keep pieces of fabric, we keep little shoes, we keep baby, I don't know, baby sweaters, or we enjoy being going shopping and buying whatever we're gonna use, because that is part of our entity of what we are,
yeah,
and that defines us, even if we are not talking about ourselves. It's what we are wearing. This lady is from Canada. She was doing the online workshop as well as Anne, and she was telling us the story of that recently they had discovered a public burial ground where there were a lot of babies. So it was very touching. And well, this is part of her native culture, let's say, from Canada. But this is the piece she did about that story. And if you could see, that's the baby, but that's the writing she developed. She did a whole bunch of stuff. She really enjoyed and tried so many various things. That's the same lady. And some look very simple, but they could be, these are done in 2 days workshop. And that is inspiring culture, or creating an alphabet. It's just one theme, one chapter of 7 different chapters this weaving words workshop has. So you have like inspired on technique, on texture, on culture, as a metaphor, as a garment. I'm still missing a couple more, but these are just the ones, the students' work where they are inspired by the textile to create an alphabet and to produce another work. This lady also, this was embroidered by her mother. So this was a vest or a shirt that her mother made, and she developed this alphabet. So here you can see the alphabet. Here you can see the writing, the flowers, dream, is, it's, blooming, blah, blah, blah. And there, this is another piece she did. This is a handkerchief. This is the original handkerchief she brought to the course. And this is the alphabet she developed. And now she's writing with this alphabet. Just like Berger would say, you're not supposed to read a calligraphic piece. You are supposed to have it from some other source. And you just interpret calligraphy as a choreographer or a musician interprets music or dancing. This is a guy from Finland, but he was actually living in Australia when he did this work. So those are Australian textiles. And this is the symbol of the culture. I'm not sure if it's Ukrainian, Hungary. Oh, I don't know. I can't recall, but. And this is Australia. So the textile is this first one. And she's doing all this with it writing.
Wow.
And even if this is so simple, but look the alphabet she has created and the rhythm and the colors. This lady did 2 alphabets because there are slight variations from one to the other one. Look at the N, for example. Here it's a whole arch, and here it stands on this diamond. So, and you can see the dress, and you can really easily relate all this. And this is the African side. This lady is from Germany, but she depicts an African textile. When the textile comes with a history, it turns to be much more interesting. So this is all that she did. Well, most of them created books. There you can read weaving words. Weaving words. The same culture or the same type of textile. Weaving words again. And this is the same Chavinka textile I have been inspired by, but was taken by another student. And look how different she interprets the letters. This workshop, I taught this workshop last year, and I will be teaching this workshop in in Belgium and in Austria at the Bartelhaus Museum. So you can have a pretty good idea is that this is not just something I can do, but anybody following a process can achieve these kind of works. And the more you commit and the more time you devote, the better the results would be, I think.
Magnificent.
So do you have any questions?
I just want to say it's really inspiring. I took one class from you, Marina, the blossoms class, whatever that we called that. And I love what you've done with this, and I love how you've inspired people, you know, through so many variations.
Okay, thank you, Janet. Yeah. Well, what I teach is I don't have a model. What I teach is process and how to take an idea to the next level. And this is what we were talking before with Raul. Making questions is basic to produce creative things. You have to ask yourself questions and try to reply them on a graphic way, and try to mute the side of your brain that is always saying, you're not too good, you're not, that has been done already, that is not very original, because if you keep on going, you will reach the original stuff, you will reach your core, you will reach what is deep inside you. And so that is just something you have to keep on sitting and working, even if you think it has no sense, even if you think it's worthless, you're not achieving what you want, you're not reaching anywhere, keep on working. things will show up, things will appear, the good story, the formula, it has happened all around the history of the world, in science and in arts and in all sorts of things. If you are perseverant, do you say? If you persist,
Perseverance.
perseverant, if you persist, you will receive the fruits of your work, definitely. Yeah, yeah. And I'm always very proud about the work of my students, because many of them at the beginning, they don't know what I'm talking about, or they think that I can do it because I'm an artist. And that's not true. We are all artists in a sense. It's just we are shy, or we don't think we can do it. And then we don't make the baby step. But if we start walking, eventually, we always start from baby steps. And then someday you become Martha Graham, or you become the best dancer in the world, or the best museum, or the best football player, whoever, whatever. They started with baby steps, and most people don't even try because they think from the very beginning that they can't. But that's a mistake.
I have a question.
Yeah, of course.
Are there textile artists today working in Chile or Mapuche culture, different cultures, that are producing these textiles with the kind of meaning that you're assigning?
Yeah. The textile artists have become very powerful in the last years, and maybe you've seen in major museums like the MoMA, like the great museums in Europe and Berlin and so on. The most forward and impressive exhibitions have textile art as the representation, because textile art is combining everything. It's blending all sorts of techniques, and a piece of, let's say, of textile art is not just made from textile. It can be made from plastic. It can be made from whatever you could think of. It's the techniques. It's the way in which it's displayed. It's whatever. It's a pattern could become a textile art. Yeah, but weaving not necessarily thread. You could weave paper. You could weave anything.
Sure.
So you could weave wire, and then you turn that into a building. So, and that would be using one of the most oldest and ancient techniques, which is weaving. But you can weave whatever. So, and there is also, maybe because of this time of technology, where technology in some way is overwhelming us, because whenever we think we understood the telephone, the mobile phone, then we have 10 more newer telephones. So back to the beginning. We are always running from behind with technology. So that creates some kind of anxiety. So in order to battle this anxiety, we need to go to something that keeps in rhythm or in harmony with the beating of our heart, with the way in which we breathe, with the time we need to do it with our hands. And in that moment, we really connect to who we are. We go 100 steps down inside us. We make this trip, like you as artists have felt it sometimes, that you are becoming part of something bigger than you when you're doing something specific. It's not always that it happens, but sometimes we have the privilege of feeling that we are part of something much bigger than us. And that is the core. That is the place where we aspire to be. And so that's why in this time, a lot of techniques that have been almost lost, like, for example, book binding. At some point, people said books will never, when with the technology, books will disappear. And books did not disappear.
No.
Books are much more beautifully made. Now books are artist books, and they use the most wonderful techniques of letterpress, of working leather, of embroidery, of techniques that were almost forgotten.
Yeah.
And so
Gilding.
people start researching on the past because they were created, or they were learned and taught and learned. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, Bruce, there is a whole movement, at least here in down in Argentina and in the south, of revival of Andean techniques, and probably because Latin America or South America is not as wealthy as Europe or North America, where they have a lot of budget to do research and to go to archaeology and figure out, like, deciphering whatever their previous history was. Even we don't have that, we still are looking for that, and many of the archaeologists and people that are searchers and investigators, they come from your places, from Europe and from the United States, and they are doing research, and they are putting money to figure out these codes, because literally these textiles were speaking to us. We don't know the language, we don't know the code. That's why before Champollion, we didn't know what the Egyptians were telling us. Now we know, because through the Rosetta Stone, we can read. But we don't have the code yet from Andean textiles.
Everything that we know about Greek religion, we learn from pottery.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So paper, parchment, and papyrus has been the support of our writing for 2000 years. But there was a story behind. We have these paintings in the caves. I do remember Thomas Eckmeyer showing us the paintings on the caves and saying, this is a sign of communication. These people are telling us something, and they are not just telling us a story. They are showing us art, because we can appreciate texture, color, design, motifs, and all are put together, so that still 2,000 years later, we still stand at Lascaux or any cave, and we are just, wow.
Yeah.
This is so beautiful. And all over the world, in every corner, we have that.
Yeah. Altamira.
I was missing those, from Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
I think there is a lot of inspiration in the past. And hopefully we as calligraphers will have the ability to rescue all those messages from the past.
One final question is, could you provide a website perhaps, which would lead me to other sources?
Do you mean about a specific textile art from the Andes, or about calligraphy blending with textile art, or
Both.
what?
Both.
Oh,
Absolutely.
okay, both. Okay, I'll send Raul some links for you to check. Basically my social media, but then I will send you stuff from the Museum of
Pre-Columbian?
Pre-Columbian art. Yeah. And
Thank
also here you have Anna from Colombia, and you have Juan from Peru. They all have very wonderful museums with a lot of history and courses.
Es el tiempo de viajar más.
Sí, hay que viajar más. Okay.
Question, Marina, will you be in Bruges for the exhibit of your artwork at the Mana Art Gallery?
Sorry. Yeah, the exhibition. Sorry, when I talk too much, this happens to me. There will be an exhibition at the Mana Art Gallery. It was hanged yesterday, and it will continue till June 29th. I will be there for the finissage. So I'll be there when the last day of the exhibition, because I'm gonna be teaching in Europe, in Belgium and in Austria. We still have some places left in Austria. So if you want to join us at the Bauhaus Museum, there is also an exhibition from the wonderful Maximo Polello at the Bauhaus. And there's another lady, Patricia, I can't remember her second name. She will be also showing her art at the museum. And the Bauhaus Museum, it's a wonderful museum. Andrea Wunderlich was there last year for the opening of the exhibition with Brody and or the work of Brody, Lisi Pluzinski, and Wissam Shaukat from Iraq. And this is a lovely museum which has an incredible collection of ex libris. And help me, Andrea, the work of what's the name of the calligrapher that they host?
Friedrich Neugebauer. Wonderful work.
Yeah. Andrea, you gave a lecture.
Yeah, I gave a lecture because I've been showing my work there several times, and it developed from a very local little museum into an international museum for calligraphy and the ex libris thing, because they have a new curator, and she did some renovations in the house. I know the old style of the house, so it's modern now with modern ideas, and she's bringing in new tutors, international calligraphers. So that definitely is a place where you should go and visit Austria. Don't go only to Offenbach, to the Klingsborn Museum, and to Berlin. Plan a visit to Austria too.
Okay.
Yeah, because the wonderful thing about this museum is this is always on display. It's not like the Académie de Kunst, where you have to ask, or the Hofer Archive, where you have to ask, or the Klingsborn Museum, where you have to make a reservation and ask which pieces do you want to see. The Bauhaus, maybe it's the only one that has exhibitions on display, because I think even the San Francisco Public Library, it's by requirement, it's by an appointment, isn't it? Am I right?
Just to ask them to notify them a day or two before you come in, but just so that they can locate the pieces, because they've got a pretty big collection. The Harrison collection is quite big. The San Francisco Public Library, on the 6th floor, there is the Book Arts and Special Collections Department, and part of that Book Arts and Special Collections Department includes the Harrison collection, which is a large collection of 19th and 20th century calligraphy that was started by a man named Richard Harrison. but the collection continues to grow. And yeah, it's open to the public, but it's best to ask beforehand, just a day or two beforehand, just so that they're prepared for you when you go there. It's a great.
Yeah, the same thing happens with the Klinsor Museum, which used to have the most lovely, how do you say, bibliotecaria, book attender?
Librarian?
She's librarian, sorry, librarian, that's the word. She would pull the whole museum into your desk so that you could see it. If you like this, then you can have this. And then if you have like this, then I'll bring you some stuff, but nobody knows. This was Helga.
Helga Horschig. Yes, our dear
That's
friend
the woman.
Helga.
You could stay days in that museum. I
Yeah.
do remember going the day after and the day after. It was crazy.
Same here.
Yeah, Andrea and I were there, and she's become a friend. But I have a question. Where's the Bartle House, and how far is it from Gold Kronach?
Ah,
So for everybody else, Gold Kronach is where I live. Louise would come and visit me. So it's not that far away for me. It's
well, I'm going from the museum to Andrea's house this time, this year.
Yeah.
In a
Marina will
month's
stay
time.
with me in June. Very much looking forward to it. So it's about, I think, was it 4 hours? Three and a
Yeah,
half
3 or
hours.
4 hours train.
Yeah. So that's
Well,
why
that's
we
not-
went there last year. It's easy. Yeah.
Could we get links
Unbelievable.
to your workshop and to the exhibits?
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, I will.
Yeah,
I will.
afterward. I'll
Uh,
forward this.
Dina, you were lifting your hand? Were you lifting your hand? Okay, maybe not.
I just want to say,
Okay.
Marina, you are very, very inspiring. I love what you say about the work and about that commitment and just doing and being patient with the process. I think that's so beautiful. So thank you for those words. And the whole thing, it was gorgeous. Very inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Luis. Yeah, I really, people believe that inspiration comes, you start painting and you make a big piece that goes into a museum. No way.
No
That is
way.
the worst joke ever said. But even Picasso says, like, it's 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration. You
Yeah.
have to be sitting there working, no matter what, how useful and how depressed you feel. You have to keep on going, and eventually the good stuff will show. But that is, and sometimes even for a long time, I would complain for coming late into this calligraphy world, because I first studied fine arts, then I was a graphic designer, and being at the graphic design university, I learned, a calligrapher came from the United States, Carol Johnson, and she showed us in Argentina for the first time what was calligraphic art. And immediately, as I told Raul, I fell in love at first sight. I want to die doing this. But when she left, there was nothing here. I'm talking about 1990. There were no tools, there were no books, there were nothing, there were no internet. We couldn't Google anything. So, like 8 years later, I was pregnant for my third child when I decided to attend the first international calligraphy conference I could. And then when I was in there, I said, I want to be part of this community. This is such a very special community, and it has a lot to do with the textile art community. It's not, how can I say, everybody's so generous and is so willing to share and is so willing to pass the torch to the next generation, to share the old knowledge. So I was coming from the arts and from the graphic design, which was a battle, you know. It's a totally different kind of people. So I try to tell students that there is a process, and even when they think they are failing, they are not failing. They are learning things that will work later on, but they have to be patient. And perhaps they are not getting, and this happened to me, so that's why I always tell this example. I was in a workshop in Tuscany with Monica Dengo, and she was saying, well, Marina, you should think in terms of space and counter space at the same time. I think, what is she talking about? I had no idea what she's talking about, but I kept on working. 8 years later, I created the empty space womb of shape because I needed other knowledges, because I needed other experiences, because I had to mature in order to understand what she was talking about. But then when I had all those other things coming, I said, now I know what she was talking about. Thank you, Monica. You were right. I created a whole bunch of work. I've been inspired by you like 5 years later of something you said. And I'm inspiring others with the empty space. But I had to learn the Taoist rules of beauty. I have to learn techniques. I have to learn tools in order to blend this and understand it through my own way of understanding things. And so I have a billion examples of these things that did not work. And it's funny because when I tell the stories, they start laughing and they say, oh yeah, I do. That happened to me as well. It's just a matter of remembering stuff. So yeah, I'm very privileged to be part of this community. And so for that, I thank you all very much.
Thank
Maybe
you.
we're done.
Marina, can I just say, because I
Yes.
think you are so good at putting into words all your thoughts and the philosophy behind how you think, and also how you look upon the different arts, and the textile art, the calligraphy art, visual arts. So I'm just really looking forward to your book about the philosophy behind all your pieces of art.
I wish I could write a book. I live in Argentina, remember? That is so unthinkable, undreamable. So
Well, nothing's
I would love.
impossible. You said baby steps.
No, yeah, of course. Well, I think I enjoy sharing these because all these are learnings I have from my own professors, from my own mentors. And I have been very lucky to teach at the National University in Argentina, where I had 200 students in my class.
Oof.
And in order to be able to explain and to be clear, you have to have it clear you yourself, because if not, you're going to drive crazy. You're going to escape, run away. And that is what makes the philosophy. I first create in my unconscious side, but then because I want to share what I think is interesting or what could be, I don't know, good for others, then that is when I go back on my own steps. And you've seen it, Helen, that before I teach any workshop, I show people, how did I get there? How did an idea started? What was the beginning of an idea? Because you can always see your tracks. Steve Jobs used to say, you can't look at I've said it a billion times, but you can always you don't know what's going to happen in the future, but you can always take a look at the past and figure out what things connected through time to bring you wherever you are at that moment. It was much shorter, Steve Jobs quote, but I can't remember it by heart. But actually, that is what I do. Whenever I find something that I think it could be interesting to share with my students, then I go back on my own steps. And when did this idea started? When was the first seed planted? Who planted that first seed? And how did it evolve? And what else came into the game to make it whatever it is? And so that is what I enjoy very much. I enjoy the thinking process as much as I enjoy the working process. And hopefully, Helen, this could be a dream one day, to have all my workshops into a book so that other people could share my ideas. And I'm always eager to see what they can do, because I've been in one of Anne van Kentenvik's workshops, and I developed an alphabet, but that was also blend with a textile I had and blend with a piece of plastic that was dried by the sun. And I blend everything together, and I have created, I can't say how many pieces of art. And recently, one of them was purchased by the New York Public Library. So I'm very thankful, grateful to Anne for just planting a seed. Then I have to do the watering, and I have to do the rest, the nurturing of the soil. But I did the work, and it grew into something better. So, okay, Raul,
So,
what do you say?
well, thank you.
Thanks
Thank
to
you
you.
so much for doing this. This is actually the second time you've participated in a lecture. You gave a lecture a couple months ago with Andrea about the Bartlehouse Museum. So thank you for that too. And this was
Yeah.
a wonderful presentation. Yeah, just once you sent me the links for the resources
Yeah.
that you mentioned, I will go ahead and send
Yes,
out.
and I will send the links for the Bartlehouse Museum and for the workshops I will be teaching around. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to share my ideas with you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Marina.
Marina.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Mil
Gracias a
gracias.
todos.
So join
Gracias.
us next month on
Bye,
Sunday,
Laura.
May 25th,
Love you.
for a demonstration by tattoo artist Adam Kludecki. Adam, owner of Scriptorium Berlin, which I visited last January with Andrea Wunderlich. That date is still kind of tentative, but I think that's really the only date that will work in May. So I'll see you next month. Thank you so much, and thank you, Marina.
Thanks to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Raul.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.